Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Let's Talk Marketing with Nathan A. Webster podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and excited to chop it up. Today, I want to focus on being a Black professional, and I got my girl here, Karen Foster. What's up, girl?
Hey Nathan, how are you?
I'm doing good. For the listeners out there, we are recording this. It's on Zoom, just to be real, and so you got both the audio for you if you're listening wherever you're at in the world. You can also watch the video on YouTube if you go to our YouTube channel at NW and Associates. So this is the first time I did the video recording on the Let's Talk Marketing, and the first time I've talked about something that, culturally speaking, could be like taboo. But, I got to keep it real. Let the folks know we got to keep it real. So for those that don't know, we are in Vancouver, Washington, which is, depending where you're at, it's just a rock's throw away, but like 5 minutes north of Portland, Oregon. Not Vancouver, Canada. We're like 3 hours south of Seattle, Washington. So make sure you understand that we are a bedroom community of Portland, Oregon, like the Portland Trailblazers, not Portland, Maine. So people say, are Black people out there? Are like, what? I was born and raised here in Vancouver. And I'm sorry, I don't want to keep talking and not give the listeners who give the introduction of who Karen Foster is. Karen, tell the folks who you are, what you do.
Yes, so thank you so much for having me, Nathan. So I am Karen Foster. I am the experience curator for KF Creates, which is a virtual experience company. I'm also the experience curator for PDX Women of Color, which is an organization that creates meaningful experiences for Black and Brown women. And, I got to add my third position. I work for Clark College doing community engagement work. So making sure that our work is engaged and very diverse and inclusive at Clark College in Vancouver, Washington. So yes, that is me in a nutshell. And I live in Vancouver, Washington. I was born here. I did, however, leave, went away to college, went to an HBCU. Shout out to Oakwood University.
And where's Oakwood at?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Damn.
And then I lived in Chicago for about 14 years. So I would like to say that I grew up there professionally. And so I have been back in Vancouver for a few years now.
Wow. Yeah, we're glad. And I'm glad you came back to VW, the Couve, Vantucky, as some folks call it. And, I'm just going to go right into it because I don't. So here, let me give the background so I can paint the picture for those that are listening. I don't know or how or where I remember seeing Karen at, but of course, when you see another Black person, you're like, "What? Hey, who you? Wait, what? You don't know what to say." But oh, for those that can't see us, we're laughing because like, what? Where you been? Like, oh my gosh. But I think, throughout the time of being at Clark, that's where I know we first met.
I think it was at one of the affinity groups, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was maybe one of maybe it was the cookout, the summer cookout.
Yeah, the barbecue when Earl threw down, one of the first ones.
Yeah.
So okay. So, for these affinity groups, or here, I won't go from there. I'll just say from the first time you sat down in the office and we started chopping it up, I think I had my Chicago Bears lanyard on, and then you started rapping back and forth of being here. And let me first talk about code switching. I think that's one of the things we talked about. Being a Black professional, we got a code switch. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you want to tell the listeners what code switching is?
Yes. So code switching is usually what is done, Black people and people of color, when they get in rooms with white people to be more relatable, to fit into the box sometimes that they feel white folks have put us in, and to also sometimes I feel like it's how we feel that we'll be understood if we sound more like them, if we act culturally more like what that environment looks like. And I think for me, I would definitely say growing up in Vancouver, before code switching was even a term, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I was always doing that. And I would say that it wasn't until more recently where it's like, you're gonna get what you get.
And I think so when I wanted to paint this story, it was like, I didn't know, am I gonna have to code switch, because just because you brown don't mean you down, right?
Right. It's true. You're right.
So like I was like, oh, I don't know, I'm a very beautiful chocolate caramel. uh Karen's a little bit darker than me, but again, just because you down, I mean brown don't mean you down. So when started rapping it, and it's funny, I think we only had like a 30-minute meeting scheduled, and it lasted for like maybe an hour and a half, because we
Mm,
just started chopping it up. Because one of the things that I find super important is, as the code switching, is sometimes even with other Black folks, I got to continue to code switch. Or even when you walk by someone and they don't do the nod, it's like, oh, okay, okay. But I think one of the things that, not I think, I know, it feels so much better because there's some elements to your story is an exact replica of my story.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand. And maybe now, because of the George Floyd thing, things are coming out, uh, but doesn't mean they're fixed. So when I say being a Black professional, what does that mean for you, Karen, in your experience, in your story of going about things?
Being a Black professional, what does that mean?
Right? It's almost like there's no pride in that, right?
I, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have wanted to lead with job titles, um,
Mm.
where I work, my operation is that I'm working for, all the things that they're doing. So now I would definitely talk about, if we're talking about being a Black professional, I would just talk about like being a change agent, like how am I providing impact and doing things to make this world a better place in my way, right? Finding my lane of change and thriving there. And I think, like I said before, just a few short years ago, I would have been like, I work for CDW and I am a product marketing specialist. And CDW is a $9 billion organization. We do da 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 da. I would have ran the things, right? Um, and led with that. And I would have reminded you that I have a master's in all of these things. Um, because I think I was so tied to being a Black professional means you have a job with a title that also can put you in a box of maybe having a lot of money and things like that. So, but now I would talk more about what are the things that I'm doing to make sure that I'm working in my lane of change and that I'm doing my part in, especially right now with the civil unrest, with Breonna Taylor's murderers still not being arrested, with everything in this world that is happening to Black people to keep us down. It's more for me when I think of even maybe Black professional isn't the word, but I think of just what my life is to make sure that I'm working in my lane of change to help leave this world a better place, especially for Black people. Like, what can I do between now and the end of my life to make sure that I'm doing that?
So for those that are listening, I know you might hear the Black professional and you might be a little turned off by that. But I got love for all folks. One thing though, I want to try to use my words carefully here, but being the token is not cool. And I don't think folks truly understand that. So when I say a Black professional, and in other words, I'm also saying being a token.
Mm,
And sometimes we know we are a token. And the only reason why we're at the table is because we're a token. And I guess that's the part that for me is just, after a while, I'm getting tired of being the token. I get tired of walking into these places not feeling welcome. Like like when you walk into a place, this is for you listeners out there, you walk into a place and you feel what we call shade, hate, where there's no belonging. Like, and we say, hey, look, I'm just going to chill in the cut over there. That means I'm going to go to the corner. I'm going to find my own little space so I can feel like I'm still here. I'm present, but even though I'm not being welcome, I'm going to entertain myself. I don't need you to entertain me because you're not accepting me. But I've gotten to the place where it's like, look, if I'll show up, but if y'all acting like you are like too bougie, too good, and another word, bougie, it's supposed to be middle class, but bougie means you got your nose up high and you doing what you want to do. And this is a part of, like, I would say Black is a language too. It might not be that box you check on the application, but it is a language. And this is not being ratchet, which ratchet means like unsophisticated here. There's other ways we could work that. But I think if you never put yourself in the position of being a token, then you really don't understand what that means. And it's not even about, like, maybe if you're in a room and you hear another language being spoken, of course you feel some sort of way, but you at least still got the space where you say, like, hey, look, it's not a big deal. So I want to get back to, and the reason why I wanted to say all that is because I think what's so important is the fact that leading with, like, you work for this big multi-billion-dollar firm, and all that I was saying that is, you can still work for that, something like that. When I say, like, I used to be a Marine, but still didn't feel I was worthy to be a Marine, even though I did everything. But because I wasn't in this certain group, I felt like I still didn't do enough. Like, I still wasn't there. I still didn't feel a part of the family. And that's just because so many other things, but that's also, I don't see myself represented in leadership. I didn't see myself represented in the staff. I don't see myself represented in the neighborhood. So when you say lead with titles, it's part of being that statistic. And I said a lot. Go ahead. I said a lot. Go ahead. Your turn.
I mean, I've definitely experienced what it's like to feel like you're the token, right? You're the one, you're the Black person that, maybe you're palatable. Like, I've heard that before, or maybe you're articulate enough.
That's always a favorite one people like to use. You're so articulate. Oh, okay.
And so I've definitely experienced that, and I've definitely been called into rooms or conversations where I know that's what it is. And there was a time where I would believe, like, my mindset was more like, well, if I get in the room for whatever reason, that I can make sure that other people get in the room. And in some cases that works, but there is more cases that doesn't work, because if you are the token, they only need one, right? So they're not looking for other people. They just want to be able to check the box that, okay, we got a Black person in here, and that's enough, right? And so I have definitely, like, felt that. Like, now though, I feel like I would definitely say, especially working where I work, and recognizing and being able to name behaviors that I couldn't name before, it's a lot easier to call it out when that's what it is, so that you can make change, right? So, if you recognize, like, now, if I felt that I was a token, I would say something. Like, I wouldn't be like, I'm not going to say anything because I want to keep my job, or this might be the gateway for someone else. No, we're going to say something from the front, because it's not right, period, right? Like, don't let me in and not let everybody else in just because you want to check a box and make sure, outwardly you look like you're diverse and you're all about people of color and you're all about Black people. No. So, I would definitely say that I'm recognizing it, being able to name it, and then being able to call it out is something that I'm more comfortable doing now than what I was before. Because if all of us should be welcomed at the table, like, if we're all, doing good work, and we're, doing, many of us are more than qualified than some of the people that are already at the table. So, so
Say that. So here, because you're going somewhere, and I want to facilitate this, because I also don't want to have people say, like, well, they're venting, right? And people are gonna say what they're gonna say, but I want to talk to some folks out there that are listening for some true takeaways of how can they make their workplace a more inviting, more welcoming, um, also more diverse. And I don't like to always use diversity because I think it's lost the potency of what diversity is supposed to mean because it's just became a melting pot. But I know this is your area that you work in. So for some takeaways for folks that say, I need to make this a better work environment, what would be some takeaway items for them?
I think that looking at leadership, if your leadership is not diverse, if it doesn't have any people of color from the top of your company down, looking at your why, where are you looking for your applicants? Working with organizations that you can get people of color and Black people um, into these positions. Working with DEI consultants so that you can change the culture of your company.
And what
Because
does DEI mean for folks that don't know?
diversity, equity, and inclusion, so that you can develop a culture that is more inviting. Because the truth is, even if you change it, you hire a person of color or a Black person, right? Um, but your culture is not inviting, we may not stay long because it's not for us, right? Like, yeah, we got the job, we might get the little title, all of that, but we can feel when we're really not wanted. And for some people can stick it out and they might come from that, this is just what it is, and I'm gonna just work it because I need this job or this experience or whatever. But there are a lot more people now that feel more empowered to walk away from an organization that is not for them.
And
So,
and,
mhm.
and hold that thought because as being born and raised in Vancouver, Washington, which is predominantly white, which is I think 2.9% Black,
Mhm.
um, people say, where are the Black folks? It's like, well, there's not a lot of us, but uh,
Mhm.
one of the things though, I think it's like for you, I don't know, we haven't really discussed this at all, but I know for us, I'll say for us, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the last things I ever want to do is blame something on race. I do not want to say, oh, I didn't get the job because I'm Black. I didn't get the promotion because I'm Black. I'm not being paid as much as because I'm Black. And that's one thing that I wanted to because I'm like, I'm a competitor.
But sometimes that's the reason, Nathan.
It
Sometimes that is legit the reason, 100%. There are times where I'm pretty sure you've experienced where you might have expressed an idea or something, and another white person comes in and the idea is executed, or that you have an idea, you're bringing a group of people together at work, and people, you're getting a lot of pushback, resistance, questions on why you're doing this, and then someone else works with you on the same idea but does not look like you, and it seamlessly goes through. Like, the reason is very clear on what happened there, right?
right.
So,
That's you blowing up. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And I want to talk about another layer, which in which we don't have to spend a lot of time on, but which I didn't kind of prep you for, but also what's it like being a Black woman? Because even when I was in learning about Black folks and the rise of earning rights, a lot of it takes, and I'm a sports buff, so I focused on sports, and the majority of the people that were part of that, like say like the Jackie Robinson, they're males, they're Black males. The Black woman that did stand up, they don't get a lot of credit for it. So what's your experience as a Black woman?
ooh, Black woman. Woo. So, wow, I'm trying to think, where should I start with it? Um,
Mm,
I would definitely say, like, coming back to Vancouver, being a Black woman has been challenging. Um, Living here, so after living in Chicago for as long as I did, Chicago is full of culture, full of Black people. Um, that My lifestyle was completely different. Coming back here in all white city, you can feel invisible here. whether that's intentionally or unintentionally. I
Mm-hmm.
feel every day here, I have been, for the most part, reminded that I am a Black woman in spaces that may or may not be for me, right? But I'm still here anyway. Um, and it's been hard professionally. I feel like there have been challenges that I have experienced since I've been back in the last couple of years. The microaggressions are more intense here. Um, there's a lot of passive aggressive behavior here, that I just didn't experience in Chicago. And, to be fair, there are things that I experienced here growing up in high school that when I moved away, I kind of just blocked it all out. So some of these things are all coming back. And so it's like the younger me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the adult me are kind of experiencing the same things. And Clark College is right across the street from the high school I attended. So there is some trauma, there's some triggers there. So I think that being a Black woman here um, it has been a struggle, but I find that the more intentional I have been about what I want out of my career professionally, out of anything that I'm working on, I do think to be here and to do well and to, I hate to say survive, but I'll say thrive. You have to be very intentional from how you meet people. You have to be intentional and seek out. If you want to be around more people of color, if you want to be around more Black people, you really have to work at that here.
So hold on, start over. I see you already beat me to it. So if you're a person of color, for some takeaways, or if you're a person that wants to help a person of color,
Mhm.
okay, please continue on what you're saying, because you were giving some good nuggets of
Yes.
intentional. Go ahead.
Being intentional and seek out um, events, organizations, places where these people are so that you can connect with them. So be intentional about that. PDX Women of Color is a great place to start if you would like to meet other people of color. There's a lot of people in that group that either have just moved to the Pacific Northwest, or that have lived here. And there are a lot of people that are, there's a lot of like-minded people in that group that are all seeking some of the same things, and creating the things that you want here. So it's not, this isn't Chicago, this isn't Atlanta, this isn't DC or New York or even California. So there are things here, because it's smaller and because the people of color and Black folks, all that is a smaller group. You got to create what you want to see. So if you want to have a group of people to find concerts to go with, create that space for it. People will come. If you build it, people will come. But we don't have some things here. Like, we don't have a lot of Black owned places here or spots where we can just pop up and go. So you have to be creative and be intentional to build that community that you want to see.
Man, that's real. And I know we only have a few minutes left, but if you are a younger, I know we're a little bit older.
Speak for
Uh,
yourself, honey. I'm ageless.
Karen don't want everyone telling no one her age, so it's a mystery, and it's a little game to her too. uh, so we older, we're in the same boat. Yeah, we're in the same boat. So uh, for these younger cats, yeah, and I keep it real. Like, when I saw all these protests happening in Portland and whatnot, I was like, these am like, whoo, some years ago, I won't give out Karen's age because I know we were on the same age. Back in the day, I know I would have been out there too, because I honestly I didn't have much to lose. I was like, oh dog, in Minnesota Society, young, Black, and didn't give, you
Lord.
know. But for those younger cats, and I tried talking to a younger cat to say, hey, look, man, there are some I can give you some opportunities if you want to be a part of the solution, because this is with the work that with the PDX from the color. I know even in my business, we are part of the solution. When people say, hey, where are the Black businesses at? Here you go. Here are opportunities to where, even at the college as a Black professor, here I am. These are things that we can grow and expand upon. So as a youth, if you were to tell a young person that's maybe from, let's just say, 19 to say 26, as they're sharpening their teeth, they are getting experience, wanting to get their feet wet, kind of like in this work as they're also trying to dually build their career, what would you tell them?
So
Or
you're
if you
saying in this in the work of like doing marches and things like that, or just in general as they're building?
how to be intentional creating the space, like if you told yourself when
Mhm.
you left after graduating high school, what would you tell yourself back then?
I would tell myself back then, ooh, purpose, like figure out, really think about what your purpose is, right? Because once you know that, you can align everything that you're doing under that, right?
I love
And think about that. And what are your core values? Understand what are your core values, and it's okay if they change because you're young. A lot's going to change, but what are your core values? And just think of three. So if your core values are, you know, what are mine? So core values, I want to know my purpose. So if my purpose right now is that I know I want to make change, um, under that, so I know that I want to be a change maker. So my core values are, I want to be inclusive. I want to make sure that all the work that I do serves a purpose and is inclusive for that purpose, right? I also want to make sure that one thing that's really important to me is that it's in my voice and as Karen and not anybody else's voice. And I think for me, and I say that because growing up in all white environments, sometimes as a Black girl, I felt like I was always trying to be what I was around a little bit. So I might change up the way I talk, or maybe I might dress a little bit, but I was never really comfortable being 100% me. And I think that when you are comfortable being like who you are, you can do anything in this world because it's you. So making sure that you know who you are enough that you can use your own voice. And then the other part of my core values is always pay it forward. As I'm moving up, I should always be able to look back and have somebody behind me. And I should be able to be responsible enough to have someone to pass the torch to, right? So it shouldn't be that they're looking for me. I should be looking for them too. And I think that that's how it's supposed to be, is you should always be paying it forward. My three things. So I think if you know what you want to do, if you can kind of get your core values together, know your purpose, it can just help shape and mold you into the person that you really want to be. And also give yourself grace to know that it could change. You're young, life changes. Between 19 and 25, a lot could change. What you're interested in could change, right? um eh, yeah, a lot. Because I just think back to, like, when I was young, there were so many things that I wanted to do, and job titles were one of the things that were really important. And working for a big corporation was like up here, like, this is what I want to be able to say that I'm at these $9 billion corporations and all this other stuff, and I want these titles. No, but when you get into that, once I got into grad school, the meaning of life changed for me. And even if I take like family situations, things like that, but the meaning of my life and purpose changed. So as I was doing integrated marketing and communications and doing messaging and stuff like that, I started thinking about my own messaging. So, like, yeah, it's great to work for a big brand or a corporation, but if that corporation really doesn't care about people and that's what you care about most, and I care about others, you know, am I working in alignment to my purpose? Because you can be out of alignment in a great job, but out of alignment with who you are. And years will go by and you'll realize you're not as happy as you thought. Yeah, the checks look good, and but you spend 90% of your week, it feels like on some weeks 90% at a job that you might not be feeling feeling like you're fulfilling your purpose, and figuring out how to do that. Some people really can work a full-time job that they hate and do stuff on the side. Some people can do that. My brother and my sister, they don't hate their jobs, but they can do that. If they had to, they could truly do that and fulfill their passions on the side. And that's another thing, find that out early about who you are. Some people can really do that and be successful. I unfortunately cannot do that, and I tried it. It ain't for me. That ain't the life for me.
And I love that, because I like to say in a lot of my posts on LinkedIn, I say, be you. I hashtag that, be you. I think there's nothing like being you. Because I, even though the title is being a Black professional, I want you to see me more than just a Black professional. And I think that's another thing is, as we see people, please don't lump us. Please don't pigeonhole us. Please don't stereotype us. Don't judge me when you haven't taken the time to get to know me. Which is why like in my office, you won't see any pictures of me. You won't see any pictures of my kids. I rarely I don't even talk about my kids, and people are like, oh my gosh, those are your kids. Like, yep. Okay, continue to move on with the conversation. And because that's something very personal, and I'm only going to let you in when I feel like you are a safe person. And it don't matter what color you are. And one of the things as being a business owner that I've learned is, it's kind of like that whole imposter syndrome that you talked about. And so, and just to learn that it's not just, a Black thing, it's a person thing, it's a humanity thing. And I think that's the sad thing of where when you only see me for what I am, then you don't get to know who I am.
It's true. It's true.
So as we close, can you give the listeners for any PDX Women of Color, any events you have coming up, and where can they find you at as your social media handles?
Yes. Okay. So PDX Women of Color, we have a series that we hold every Monday on Zoom from 5 p.m. PST to 6 p.m. PST. It is called 2028 Canceled. So it's all about becoming better versions of yourself, leveling up, and that we can do this during any season. So it is a platform where we have different topics that we tackle every week with a panel. It's very engaging. It's almost like a little party. You come for a kiki and some knowledge. You will leave with life-changing information that you can apply to your everyday life. So I encourage you to come to that, and that is at PDX Women of Color on IG. You can also find me at KFOS26 on Instagram, or KF Curates also on Instagram, and Karen D. Foster on LinkedIn.
Oh, love it. And your dog keeps barking. I was like, that's the good, honest to goodness truth. Nah, you ain't got to apologize. It's good. Hey, it's just for keeping it real, right?
Yes.
That's what it's like working from home. I'm in my office. So I would say if people wanted to walk away with one thing, like one last nugget, let's just say if there's one thing I can do today, Karen, what would you tell them?
One thing that you can do today. Ooh.
I know I put you on the spot with that.
Yes, this wasn't one thing that I would say do today is, I think, doing something every day that can make you a better version of yourself.
See?
I think that, like, in that, yeah, we all got something we could do. And sometimes what that will look like might be something that you already do every day, but you could do better every day.
And I will say, for me, as a close, one thing I've learned to do has, like, as you kind of talked about the re-traumatization and when you came back, and even for me now with some things that have happened in the last years and decades of things that happened that's re-traumatized some things that happened to me as a kid, is giving back in regards to my core nucleus, which is like my core family, my core friends, spending time with them, because what I'm finding is that also heals me just as much as it heals them. So if you haven't done so already, reach out to someone you haven't talked to by a phone call. I know we got a social distance, but that don't mean you can't pick up the phone.
It's true. It's true. You got to get creative in these times.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining the show. And for the listeners out there, again, you said PDX Women of Color 2028 Cancel. What's the website and your social media handles?
Yes. So thank you so much for having me. So on our Instagram, it's PDX Women of Color, and Facebook, Portland Women of Color. Social media handle for me, KFOS26, and KF Curates. That's KFCurates on Instagram. Yep. And 2028 Canceled is on our PDX Women of Color Instagram and our Facebook.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for listening to the show. Again, if you listen to it on our any of our podcast channels, please leave a review, rate it, share it. Please, 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 please share it with someone. We want to be the best podcast in the world, but we'll start out the Pacific Northwest. But I know you are listening all over the world, so thank you to all the worldwide listeners out there. You are awesome and amazing. And for those that are listening, thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. And that's, I guess, my next meeting that I got to go to. And so, as we're doing this, as I'm doing this for the first time, hope, Karen, you come back and join us because this was a hoot, as some people would say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. With that, y'all, wish you the best. Dream big. Godspeed.